In this country, culture and gender continue to dictate our actions and expectations as women. And I have the luxury and great misfortune of never being able to hide my culture. It stares at me in the face all the time. My place of birth is the Democratic Republic of Congo, dubbed by the UN most dangerous place to be a woman, dubbed rape capital of the world. So I may be foreign, but not to violence. So I tend to exchange the words immigration with survival. With the weaponization of sexual violence persists to destroy communities, lives, families, I slowly begin to understand their brutality. The easiest way to dismantle a community is to take away its backbone. We are its backbone. Nevertheless, I'm connected by my country's history and its present and the patriarchal institutions that have allowed these abuses to take place. These injustices that reign on the streets of Congo tend to make people feel uncomfortable. They either pity us or ignore us. But let's use this as an opportunity to look at this country. Is this just? An industrialized country with the highest rates of domestic violence. When 1 in 3 women experience violence, the other 2 are sighing out of relief. This culture of "at least it didn't happen to me" is divisive, and it's dangerous, and it makes us very, very vulnerable. But when you look closely at our country, there's more. We are underrepresented in Parliament. Our beehive is more of a boys' club. We have the highest rates of teen pregnancies among the developed world, particularly high among young Māori women. In the rates of training, education, and employment, women reign over men, and particularly high among Polynesian and Māori women. What does this information tell you? This information says that we have so much more work that needs to be done. It also highlights a particular demographic that suffers a higher amount of sexism because of an intersection with race. Māori and Pacifica women suffer a disproportionate amount because of race. This is what happens when you ignore the long-term negative consequences of colonization and events like the Dawn Raids. By ignoring this history, we have left them to suffer the consequences. We have left them to be grossly mistreated by a government that doesn't look, act, or think like them and doesn't have the compassion to try. We cannot call these efforts to fix our system revolutionary. They are necessary to achieve the political and social and economic success of all women, of all races in New Zealand. We cannot keep calling ourselves pioneers for doing what needs to be done in this country. Every time we talk about gender, we want to bring up women's suffrage. But is that enough? The pat on the back we give ourselves is nothing but a slap in the face to the women who suffer every day in this country. We suffer chronically from a not us syndrome in New Zealand, where we act as if things don't happen in a place like this. Our beautiful slice of nowhere is not immune to sexism. And it's time to start saying the words gender inequality and New Zealand in the same sentence. As a young woman in a very young country, I will admit, I have been hesitant to call myself a woman, to identify with the plight of women before me, to have the responsibility to stand up with the women in my life against a system that would rather we didn't stand at all. It meant knowing there was always a 1 in 3 chance of being a victim. It meant knowing that we must use truth and veritas to build a collective. Veritas? That is the key in building a strong community of women who know that freedom is collective and not individual. United, we are the backbone of this nation. And we always have been. From Dame Finna Cooper, to Kate Shepherd, to Helen Clark, to all of you, to myself. I understand that I might be a little different. that I'm an outsider here, but we are all oppressed in one way or another, and our oppression might be our only connection. The fundamentals for gender equality are already in place. We have democracy, a rule of law, an independent judiciary. It's not about that anymore. It's about all of us taking the responsibility and recognizing that if we are all for one and one for all, the last thing we are going to do is fall.